welcome to week 2 of the I Love You More group study. Today I'm here with Christie Ellison. She's a really good friend of mine. Her son Grady and my son Jacob have become really fast friends, and she has many other children, but I'll let her tell you about that. Christie actually does all the booking for a air conditioning company. She's the brains behind the company, and she works really hard, and she's a great mom, and she's a great friend. What are some other things that you like, Christie? I can't remember off the top of my head.
I love cooking and baking. I love to garden, vegetables and flowers both, and spending time with my family.
And your family. Introduce everyone to your family.
So, been married to John for almost 19 years. Have an oldest daughter, Summer, then Riley is our oldest son, and then Emily, another daughter, and then Grady's our youngest. Yes, and we have a grandson, Riker.
Yep, who you keep a lot.
A lot on the weekends, and take to school or daycare and pick him up in the afternoons too to help her out.
Yeah, so the Ellison family has been really good friends to my boys, and I respect John and Christie a lot. We've had them over to dinner and a cookout one time, I think. Anyway, I feel sorry for Grady because when he comes over here, I've been so busy, I haven't really been cooking anything. So if he gets good cooking at home, he starves here. But I'm so glad you guys have joined us for week 2 of this study, and there's going to be some great conversation with Christie. But I just wanted to kind of review what we talked about this week. This was a hard chapter for me to write. Honestly, I was in tears because it has my story in it. And so you guys know me a little bit better now than you did probably on the first chapter. And I did that intentionally because I wanted you to know a little bit of who I am before you continue to read the rest of the book, and so that you understand kind of the perspective that I have in loving Jesus more has everything to do with being willing to look inside and let Jesus heal you in the places that can kind of become scary. So I wanted to say that this week we're talking a lot about knowing that ignorance isn't bliss, that we need to look inside and see what Jesus wants to heal. And also another main idea is knowing that we don't have to be victims. We can become victors. And Christie resonates with that a lot. So we can go ahead and get started. Christie, do you want to tell me a little bit of the chapter, the highlights that you grabbed from the chapter, some of your takeaways that you feel like really hit home with you?
I think one of the biggest takeaways was in the very first chapter where JoJo made that quote, it's so much easier to fix things on the outside. The inside's just too complicated. And that rang so true to me because as I was younger, I was raped at 13. And so for me, I could fix the outside when I went to school. I could, change my hair color or get a new outfit or, wear tons of makeup or pretend to be somebody that I wasn't on the outside, but what was on the inside remained the same. And that really resonated with me a lot because it is complicated. It's not an easy fix.
No.
It's not something that you can flip a switch or study for and make a good grade on the paper and it's over with. It's a process.
Yeah.
So
some of the things that we hurt with are so deep that sometimes it just takes time to put it into words even. And so I think that's one of the biggest challenge is in looking in our past and learning how to heal is letting God not only show us what's hurt, but almost explain to us why we're hurt.
Yes.
And that can take years and lots of conversations and lots of time with the Lord.
Yes.
And honestly, that quote from JoJo, he's kind of an introspective, he's such a sweet boy, but it's hard to get him to verbally say some of the things that he feels.
Yes.
And so he's, my son, and I love him, but I remember when he was little, he would get hurt. When he got hurt, he would just cry so hard and pretty much say nothing, and then he was fine. And I just didn't understand that. I could never, as a mom, figure out what was going on with my kid.
Yeah.
And I think that sometimes it's good to look hard at what we're crying about
Yes.
And try what's grieving our souls, what's grieving our hearts, and let
Yes.
God show us.
Yes.
But I appreciate you being vulnerable. And you're right, it's easy to look, I guess, pretty on the outside, but be hurting inside.
Yes. With the time that we live in, I mean, everything is focused on appearances.
Yeah.
Not what's really inside in our heart and,
Yeah.
in our minds. It's all about how other people perceive us to be, and not what's true. And
Yeah.
so
Yep.
we don't want to shine a light on that.
And we're scared to, I think.
Yes.
So, Christy, what would you say from this chapter is the biggest characteristic of God that you took away that just ministered to you? Something you learned about who God is?
I think the biggest takeaway that I learned was that I can trust him and that he loves me more than I love myself. And, he's going to do everything he can to get me on track and on the plan that he has intended for me. So he doesn't mean anything for harm. He means it for my good. So it took me a long time to be thankful for what I've, been through and the suffering and the pain. But now I see it was all for his glory. It wasn't, to punish me or anything like that. So I trust him, and I know that he loves me without a shadow of a doubt.
Yeah. And he wouldn't ever choose for you to go through the things that you went through,
No.
but he can take what you went through and heal you from that.
Yes.
And help you overcome it in a way that no one else can. Even
No.
I think counselors are great. I think books are great.
Yes.
But the Lord will take all of those things and himself, and that can give you, once you put together God, counseling, whatever you're learning in the
Yes.
Bible and books, if you're really seeking healing, I think he's going to give it to us for sure.
Oh, yes.
And I love, I think when I was writing this book, it was the first time that I really wrote down the words, he loves me more than I love myself, or that anyone else can love me.
Yes.
It was like this revelation that came
Yes.
to me. I have to tell myself that with my kids. When my kids are struggling through something and I can't help them, I have to say, well, God loves them more than I do.
Yes, and he'll take care of it. Even when mom can't fix it.
Yep. And I see you trust the Lord with your kids so well. I love how you love your boys and your girls. I mean, you're such a good mom.
Oh, thank you. I think you're a great mom too.
You're such a good mom. I think it's a miracle sometimes when, I don't know if you feel like this, but when I look back on my life and I say, there are so many unhealthy things that I could be doing with my family, but I think the Lord healing me inside and healing what happened to me in the past has made me a better mom and a better wife.
Yes.
I think you'd agree, right?
I definitely agree with that. Going back to my story, I think that's what, and being thankful for my story is what made me the mom that I am today. If I had not, had the parents that I had or had that happen to me and grow up the way that I did, I don't think I would make the parenting decisions that I make today.
Yeah, you guys have some awesome my favorite story is my favorite thing that you do with your kids is the whole dating thing and how you guys have a meal, and you'll have whoever your kid is dating has to come and have a meal with your family. And you guys all talk to them, and they're kind of under an interrogation, but not really, like a fun.
It's a comfortable one, but we got to get to know this person if they're gonna be spending time with our, daughter or sibling or brother. We got to know who this person is and where they're coming from and what their background is.
You're giving them your trust with your child.
Yes.
So
Definitely.
I love that you guys do that. So what would you say the biggest characteristic that you learned about yourself? Sometimes when we read stuff, there's this alarm that goes off inside and we realize, oh man, I've either learned that and it was really great to learn, or haven't really thought about that before. What would you say your biggest takeaway of what you learned about yourself is?
I guess I learned that I need to be more sharing. I need to be more outspoken and share my story. It's just really hard, there's still pain there, and it does get easier, but God gave me the story for a reason, and he wants to use it to set other people free, and he wants to use it to have someone else in the room that's listening to the story say, me too, so that they will have the courage to take their next step in the healing process.
Yeah.
I know that He has a plan for me, and that every step that I take in the healing process is getting me one step closer to that.
Yeah.
And so I learned that I just need to keep pushing through, and it's hard and it's tough, and there's going to be bad days and good days, and some days are harder than others, but there's a light at the end of the tunnel, and it's all worth it. It's all worth it for me. It was all worth it for you and for everybody else.
Yeah.
Just
That's
have
so
that
good.
courage.
Everybody has their own level of struggle,
Yes.
their own challenges.
Yes.
Not everybody has a story like you and I. So, but they have their own pain. And I think it's important to not compare or to make light of whatever we're going through. What we're going through is hurting us. Your feelings are valid because you feel them.
Yes,
You know?
they all are.
And so I'm always very cautious not to judge someone else's pain, because it just, is it less? Is it more? Is it,
Yeah.
we're not, that's not what we're doing.
No.
We're all just healing.
Just healing
Yeah.
and helping each other.
Yep. So I love that you told me an illustration a few minutes ago about a car that is refurbished. The last question that I want to ask you is, how would you take this chapter and apply it in the lives of other people? I know that before we started, you were using an illustration that I thought was really good. So I'd love for you to share that with everybody who's listening.
Okay. So I had this illustration about like this old car, probably like in the 40s, 50s. It was a great car. It looked great. But over the years, it didn't work, and it stayed in a field and was parked. And it was old and rusty and just worn down. And so, if you want to restore that car, you have to take it to a mechanic or someone who restores classic cars. And so I like to think of my life and God working hand in hand, and He is restoring me like He would, a mechanic would, the old car. So once you take that old car out of the field and you restore it, then it's brand new inside and out. And so I like to think that that's God working on me from the inside outward.
Right.
And He's restoring me to that classic car, So
That's
I'll be
so
made
good.
new.
My granddaddy had a Model T, and I didn't see the process of the restoration of it. I saw it at the end when it was done.
Yes.
But I know that my family talked about, having that Model T and how they restored it. And when I got to see it, it was really beautiful. And my cousin actually I think she drove away in that car for her wedding. So that was really neat. But it takes years
It takes years.
to restore a
Yes.
car like that. You search for parts. It has to be put together just perfectly.
Yes.
All of these things.
And you can see where it was in the field, a rusty bucket, no hope, thinking it will never run again. And then to the point where it was restored.
Yep. And I think this is a great picture because all over the country you can find people who have dabbled in restoring cars, and then you have these shows where they all bring their
Yes.
super old restored cars, and people just want to look at them all
Yes.
and ask the story.
Yes. What's the story behind it?
Yes, and how long did it take, and why did you choose this one? And I think that's how we can apply this chapter to the world around us is, Christy, I think you're beautiful. I do.
Thank you.
You are one of my favorite people, and you're so strong. And when I look at you, I know that there's a story that maybe you felt ashamed of before, but the Lord's done so much in you.
Yes.
That is so beautiful. The inside, really, and your beautiful outside. But your inside is gorgeous, and I know that the Lord's still working. But I think that we are those vehicles that the Lord is restoring. And when people see that beauty and they
Yes.
ask why and how, we get to tell that it is the Lord.
Yes.
And that's why I put my story in here. I, for years, didn't even share my story because I was afraid it would distract
Yes.
from the Lord.
Yes.
But once I felt like I was healed enough to be able to minister from my healing and not my hurt, I think he released me to say, you need to share this because there are people who need this.
Yes.
And so we're not all able to share what's happened to us, but I think that it can be a gradual thing.
Yes.
So guys, I hope that you're encouraged by Christy today. I've been encouraged just sitting here talking with her. I almost cried. She almost cried. We have Kleenexes down here. Maybe you'll need to get some Kleenexes for your group study today, but I know you're going to have plenty to talk about. And look, I know that my story is pretty intense, and so is Christy's, and yours may not be like this, but I know that there are things that are broken inside you because there are things that are broken inside of all of us. So join in the discussion. Tell other people what the Lord is teaching you. Let them see where you're broken and where the Lord is healing you, and so that they can celebrate with you. And I can't wait to hear testimonies of what you guys talk about. Feel free to email me and let me know what you're learning. You can get in touch with me at Sharie@sharieking.com. All right, have a great discussion.